Welcome to the My Money Circle podcast. I'm Rebecca Marfe.
I'm Anthony Matthews.
Let's get into today's podcast. Welcome, Anthony, to another episode of the My Money Circle podcast.
Thank you. Lovely.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about mindset, and how we're going to do it. I thought would be the best way would be to look at it through the lens of some pretty basic and common life transitions. So we did an episode recently. Everybody can go and have a listen to that. And it was talking about the different transitions that we go through in life through our 20s, 30s, 40s, and then into retirement. And we got a lot of really good feedback about it. And we were talking about specifically the money decisions that have to be made during those life stages. So someone in their 20s, what are the key things they need to think about? Someone in their 30s and 40s, and then someone in their 50s and 60s. And it really resonated because people are really dealing with a lot of those decisions in their day-to-day lives. Yeah. But we didn't spend a lot of time in that episode talking about the mindset shifts that are happening or not happening at the same time, that without those mindset shifts happening, make the decisions that need to be made more difficult and more challenging, and those transitions and the periods that people are navigating less enjoyable overall. So what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about financial transitions and when your mindset needs to change and why. So we're going to start by talking about one particular transition, which we know a lot of people are dealing with at the moment, and that is this whole transition from working life into retirement. So we tend to focus a lot on all the decisions that need to be made in that stage. So we tend to think about how much do I need? What kind of, lifestyle am I going to have in retirement? There's a lot of fear around it in particular. The product decisions and the investment decisions are one thing, but what's really happening is people are going from this whole frame of mind of accumulating over their working life. So going from working through a career from 20 to 60 odd, 40 odd years, the whole time, let's say you've had money being contributed from your paycheck to your superannuation fund, and the education or the focus, if you've had any, on your superannuation has been about growing it.
Yep.
So what contributions to make over and above your super, guarantee the amount your employer pays for you, what kind of investment portfolio mix you should have, all with the sole focus of growing that pot of money to something significant by the time you come to retire. Fees and whether you're paying too many because it takes away from the balance you're trying to grow. So the whole focus that we arrive at retirement with as individuals is, how am I growing this balance? And then we have to suddenly shift into, it's not growing anymore. Well, not in the same way that it was. It still grows through the investments that you make, but the contributions slow or stop altogether. And in comes the fear of running out. So what's happening is that there's this mindset shift that needs to happen from growth, I'm building, I'm growing, I'm saving because of retirement. But then when retirement comes, it's jarring, and what our mindset needs to evolve to really is this concept of decumulation. What that means is I'm no longer a saver, I'm a spender of my money. Now, if you're someone that's naturally a saver, that's hard.
Yep.
If you're someone that's become a saver, which we all have through our working lives with respect to super, that's hard. If you're a spender, it might be slightly easier to just stay a spender in retirement, but you're still faced with the fact that contributions to super aren't offsetting your spending anymore.
Yeah.
And you're still dealing with the reality that the balance over time is coming off to a degree. So how does one do that? And what do you think is the reality of what people are dealing with? You've got some experiences in your own anecdotes, families, friends.
Wow. It's such a huge topic. And I think it's not black and white either. I think you put it well at the beginning, which is this transition. I guess if you're over your preservation age or over 60 and then you get called in and told your services are no longer required at the firm, that's quite a definitive moment. But for the vast majority of people, it's going to be a choice. And you can prepare. So I think one of the things in preparation, as an anecdote, is virtually nobody I know, including myself, had much of a clue about how to transition to retirement. And there are even things at the super funds called transition to retirement plans.
Yeah.
They seem a little difficult to understand. And I think this goes to there's going to be a whole constellation of issues that could be discussed and contemplated here. But I think if we step back, I think the Australian superannuation industry also needs to think about, as an industry, transitioning to something else too, because the Australian demographics, the population is not growing. The only way Australia is growing at the moment is immigration. So I think the demographics here are we're going to be drawing down super as a nation. And I think super funds are doing a great job in a whole bunch of areas, but it's going to be in retirement and assisting people in that's going to be the next big thing for Aussie super, I think. A lot of people feel super's geared to accumulation and they're not getting a lot of help. They're not even getting a phone call. Like a lot of people think, two of my best friends are like, be nice if they called on your 60th birthday and said, hey, why don't you come in for a meeting and here's what we can do for you in retirement.
Yeah.
Now, that's a long way off and it's a pipe dream and so on. But that's probably something, point one. Point two, it's a huge mindset shift because it's not – this is where I think you get into psychology, you get into family dynamics, and then you get into money because they're all integrated. It's not just you retiring; it's probably you and a partner. If you're single, it's probably a little bit easier because you can go, oh, I wouldn't mind doing this. I might do more of gardening, or I might travel more. And then you can kind of work out, well, how much is that going to cost? Where am I going to go? Maybe I can't take the private jet, to Bora Bora, but I can get a bus to Quilpie. we
Well, nobody knows where that is.
No, I'm not having a go at Quilpie either. Quilpie's probably amazing.
It's probably amazing.
It's probably amazing. We don't want to get angry.
It's more that we just don't know where that is. So is this a far trip?
That's right. I don't know myself. Okay. All right. So it's probably exotic. I probably would enjoy a weekend at Quilpie. The other problem's going to be if you retire, when you retire or you're contemplating retirement, it's your spouse and the kids. And so the second thing is you've got to have a family plan. What I think is happening more and more is because probably people around my demographic or maybe a little bit after had their kids later in life.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we've now got a cohort of people that are 60 plus that still have kids at high school. And I found personally, I thought once your kids are out of school, happy days are at uni, all my expenses are gone. But no, they're still at home.
Yeah.
They're still expenses, they've got jobs or whatever, but they need a hand with things, and we experienced that firsthand with saying, well, look, we'll get you petrol when you need to drive for your job or whatever. And then suddenly petrol went to whatever it was. And it was like a huge item for us. So you need to have a good team chat with your partner and get a plan together going, this is what we're going to do in retirement. The third thing quickly is you need to be prepared to have a deep think about who you are.
Uh-oh.
And money's going to be a part of that, but money's incidental to that because all the A-type personalities I know and all the people that are, get their self-worth, it's probably too strong a notion, but their self-identity is very much part of their job. It's derived from the job or derived from the title. I often joke with my own kids, you should do this because you should listen to me. I used to be important. And I'm joking about that, but a lot of people I know have achieved amazing things in their career and they find it really hard to be what they perceive to be as irrelevant.
So do you think, if coming back to this concept of moving from this accumulator to decumulator, are you tying that back to there's an element here that I'm no longer building and growing and contributing to the pool of capital that I'm going to rely on, or that still ensures my family, whatever age that it's in or stage it's in, is going to rely on for financial security?
I think it's a flag that era of your life is over.
Yeah.
And it's probably an adjustment of X number of months, maybe years.
Yeah.
And then I think there's acceptance. Everything I've read and anecdotal evidence from, people that I've worked for, bosses in the day and colleagues that were that next generation older, eventually there's like, I'm loving it. I've got rid of that need to be really busy every day.
Yeah.
Because when I first retired, I didn't want to touch my super because, I might live 30 years. I didn't want to touch it because that felt like it was kind of surrendering that I was going in this new era of my life.
Yeah.
But then people realised, you know what, the super system in Australia is so great. You can get there's capital gains tax benefits within the super fund. The income that comes out of it is tax-free. These are massive positives. Yeah. And you can still have setups where you can accumulate again and you can still remain employed.
Right.
But this will get us onto my other hobby horse, which is the fact that Australians don't get a pension.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a certain asset base, you can get the pension. But once you're over that asset base, you don't. And the other,
I can feel the comments growing.
Incredibly big hobby horse of mine is for every dollar that you earn, and it's quite low. I think it's $400 or something a fortnight for a couple. Every dollar over that, you lose the pension, dollar for dollar. I'm going to be slightly out, but I'm not wrong thematically.
It's about that, yeah.
Why would a country do that? Why wouldn't you just say, let's get rid of that? Everybody gets a form of a pension, not means tested, and I know the feathers will be flying, but make it low, but it can still be a safety net. And even if you don't want to do that, why don't we just change the tax code there so that people can keep working and just pay income tax? If you're 94 and you want to work at the local shop, you should be able to and still get your pension.
Yeah.
We're crying out for people, and I know there's this huge, in America they call it the silver tsunami.
Yeah.
Right? And people that have done amazing things in their career and they're still able to do things in America because it's set up that way that they can still work.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you've raised a couple of things there. One is the identity piece. And I think people, you spend the majority of your life on earth at that point, let's say we're talking about that 60 sort of age group, in productive employment or building a business or doing something that contributes to society and your own retirement nest egg. And then for one reason or another, because of age and because of, as you've raised, some of the infrastructure that exists around retiring, like the pension and its means tested and income tested, there is this, well, should I, if I continued, can I continue to work? If I do, what does it do to my eligibility for certain things?
Right.
If I stop work though, how is this money just going to continue to dry up to zero? And then at what age and stage is that going to happen?
Yeah.
I think so there's identity around the working piece. Like people want to work and contribute for one reason or another. I think it's part identity based and it's part, financially based. And then there's the fear piece as well about it running out. Where do you think, obviously it's scary when you've got the prospect of no ongoing income, and we're assuming that everyone that retires is no longer employed, is not getting an income. Like a lot of people start, small consulting businesses. They might have real estate assets that are producing them an income.
Yep.
They might have other investments through businesses they're still involved in.
Yep.
So it's not just employment income in this stopping work, starting retirement the next day. There's a world of other opportunities, but just like if you were going to go out and activate those opportunities today, they don't happen overnight.
No.
So I think that's why. But what do you think is what is the fear? The fear, where does it come from in your perspective around that?
Of running out or the change?
Yeah, of running out. Is it because, has everybody who's fearful looked at their situation and someone's gone, yeah, you're definitely going to run out? Or is it just because they haven't looked at it? Or
look, it's going to be different for everybody.
is it I don't want to look at it?
I think it's living in Australia is really expensive, and it seems to get more expensive every year. And when I look at how much I pay in insurance, and even like registering your car and health insurance. If you say, well, look, in 5 years I want to stop working and I won't have an income, and you look at what you would call back in the day in startup land, like your burn rate, every month, it's quite high. So even to maintain, a standard of living that you're used to requires a decent income.
Yeah.
So the first mindset shift is you can always survive, you can survive on very little money.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to come to terms with your partner about, well, we might need to adjust our lifestyle down to match what our income's going to be.
Yeah.
Because the other interesting thing that we've got at the moment is super's one thing, but a lot of people, the next generation coming, and again, general advice, not personal advice, but the rational thing to do would be to put as much as you can into super as soon as you can when you're young. I'm sure we can talk about that. People slightly older than me probably they hadn't had that runway because super only came in the late 90s. So there's a lot of people out there with not a lot of super. So, and now, with these tax changes, if you do start selling things, there's going to be a capital gains tax issue. So we've got policy risk coming in with people now. So I think it's a combination of those things. It's how long am I going to live? If we all knew how long we're going to live, that'd be excellent for financial planning.
Yeah.
If somebody go, Anthony, you're not going to be with us when you're 82, that's fantastic. Like I could hit the spreadsheet, I can work it out.
Yeah.
But we don't know. There's that wonderful story. Do you remember this guy in France back in the day? He was the lawyer for this lovely old lady who lived in one of the best apartments in Paris.
Yeah.
Best apartments in Paris. She came in, she was 92.
Yeah.
And he goes, tell you what, I'll do a deal. How about I pay you whatever it was, €2,500, but I get your apartment when you pass away. Anyway, and he was 62 or something.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, that sounds great. Anyway, turns out she became the oldest living human on record. And he ended up paying her till she died, and he died first. And his wife had to pick it up. So, this is the problem.
Yeah.
And then this lovely, wonderful man that wrote the personal advice column in the Wall Street Journal. And when I lived in America for a long time, everybody read his column. It was great. Anyway, so he was always telling you don't take – so in America you can choose when to get your pension because it's not means tested.
Yeah.
And you can start at 62, you get about 2/3 of the full pension. You can go up at 67 and you got to punt how long you're going to live. If, God forbid, there's something going in your life, you're not going to have a long life. You'd get Social Security at 62.
Yeah.
Otherwise, anyway, the poor fella got diagnosed with a brain tumour literally at 61. He goes, I didn't even make 62 for Social Security. And it was a really heart-wrenching column that he wrote. But he was also a big advocate of living frugally.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the comments that came out were for people going, well, hasn't your life been a waste then? You've not drunk the best wine. You've not gone to the most expensive places. And he goes, I've had a great life and I chose the life I had. And no, I'm very happy that I saved up lots of money for my retirement and it'll go to my family now.
Yeah.
So I suppose I haven't thought deeply about it, but that's another important thing to think of. The money doesn't go in the grave with you.
No.
And I think you should give yourself permission to spend the money that you've earned over your whole career.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. And you know what? If you run out, it's probably not likely. And, you know, a friend of mine who just went and saw a financial advisor and, you know, she's going to be a client for various reasons there, but they were joking. He said 60s are your go-go years.
Yeah.
70s are the go-slow years.
Yeah.
And your 80s are the no-go years.
Yeah.
So he said, all you need to do, you just need to have a great plan for spending till 79. And then he goes, you won't spend much money anymore.
Well, that's straight out of the book, Die with Zero, I believe it's called. Is it Bill Perkins, the author? That's the terminology that he uses, and the concept being that, you know, we measure wealth in terms of capital in our accumulation years. Now, not everybody does. Some people start really early on in life deciding consciously to value or to value and determine wealth based on things other than what they're worth. But if we just broadly say, if you're someone who sort of, you know, is still looking at the nut, so to speak, that you're building and growing for winter being retirement, then there's going to have to be some flexibility into the mindset and some work done on how you start to view that wealth in totality. Yeah. And the percentage of that wealth that your money and your capital contributes to it will play in some ways a diminishing part of the wealth equation as you adopt this kind of what was it? Go-go.
Go-go, 60s go-go.
Yeah.
70s go slow. 80s no-go.
No-go, right? Yeah. So experiences.
There's not many 94-year-olds going skiing in Chamonix, you know, drinking champagne at the front of the plane. I haven't seen many of them. It could possibly be a life goal of mine if I thought deeply about it.
And if you've got the means.
Unlikely.
If you've got the means, there would be not many 94 or 99-year-olds who lying on their deathbed would regret doing that either if they had spent the money on that. So, I mean, look, I'm at a different life stage. I'm not close to thinking about my retirement yet, but I do recognize through my own parents the challenges around the struggles with the mindset, and I can relate to them honestly as well. So it's I think it's just something for us all to acknowledge that it's happening. Like there's a struggle going on, reconciling one side of the coin to the other side of the coin for people, and to treat the whole conversation around wealth and retirement as one that is two tracks. There's the money and the management of that, but there's also the how are we ensuring we're not having a fear crisis and we're not having an identity crisis at the same time, which leads me into the next transition that I think is quite an unexpected one. I don't know how many other people really find this a challenge, but I personally found it a challenge when it happened to me, and that was becoming a homeowner for the first time. So for a lot of people, buying a home is the biggest asset you'll ever own. And you have saved up a lot of money. It's taken you however long, but I think the average timeline is somewhere between like 9 and 13 years or something in Australia's capital cities. And you've just been watching this wad of money accumulate in your bank account and feeling all the protection of having that cash there and managing it and seeing it sort of a nest egg grow and grow. It's a security blanket for a lot of people. And then you buy a property and on settlement, it all just disappears from your bank account.
Yeah.
Now, it depends on whether you've used the entire amount of your balance as a deposit or you've said, no, we're only going to spend this much, which means only this much is going to come out, which means this much will be left when the bank takes the money. But I don't know if many people put that much thought into it. They probably just go, this is all I've got, put that into the thing. So that, I don't know, they might look at their bank account after settlement and have $5 in there if no one said, hey, maybe leave a couple of grand for, I don't know, the next month or something.
Well, if you're really, really young, you have to have some money because you're going to have to buy some chairs and a table.
Well, that's right. You're going to have to pay for insurance.
Yeah.
Now, you've got your incomes that are coming in consequently each month after that. And the reality of the situation is that you haven't actually lost any of your wealth on paper. It's just moved from one vehicle to another.
Right.
But if you're young when you buy a property, or even if you're not, unless you consciously, someone sits down with you and sort of explains to you that, you know, the concept of a balance sheet, for example, you just see your wealth as a savings account balance. Whereas if someone sat down and said, right, well, now that you've got an asset, you've got a balance sheet now, which has assets and liabilities. And your wealth is essentially the difference between those two. And it's a number that's reconciled differently or calculated differently to what was just a number that appeared in a bank account somewhere. So unless you do that, there's a real like fear in that sort of comes up initially, and you think, oh my gosh, like how will we do this? I don't have that. Maybe I need to suddenly save an emergency fund again. And there's a rearrangement of how you think about your money and your wealth when you buy a property for the first time. Do you remember what it was like when you bought a property for the first time?
Yes, I remember being very cranky. You know why?
Why?
Stamp duty.
Well, if you didn't get back to that in either, that would be another shock.
Well, that was a long time ago, and stamp duty's only gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's horrendous in the UK now. But
So did you buy your first property in the UK?
No, here.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, oh, that's a lot of tax. And I had to ask the solicitor, but what's stamp duty? What? And what do I get for that? I mean, crickets. You don't get much for stamp duty, do you?
No.
And even now, coming full circle, I know people out there have got issues about one of the things I think that was standing people by is like, my house goes up every year. That's awesome. Now, if everything turns to hell and, you know, my wife runs off with, you know, her personal trainer or something, or I run off with a person, or someone's running off with someone, or the stock market plunges or something's happening, we can sell the house and downsize, right? And we've got a little bit of debt, and mind you, I do know a lot of people trying to retire with still a big mortgage, which is now a pretty common theme in Australia. And that's a whole probably separate podcast. But the issue now is stamp duty and the frictional costs of selling your family home and buying another one. Well, what's stamp duty on $1 million house now? Is it 13, 15? I don't know, but I bet it's a lot.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, that's kind of a big percentage out of, and then I've got to move, and you know I can put X amount in super. I think it's 300,000 for a downsizer or something
per person. So
yeah, okay,
yeah.
But then now you got money exposed outside of super. You still got to buy another house. It's not making it kind of easy. So I'm not trying to be a politician here or something, but maybe stamp duty for people downsizing could be, you know, something that could be worked on. But because that would free up a lot of houses.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when I bought my house, I think the mindset shift, there were a whole bunch of them. Number one, well, I'm definitely going out less.
Yep.
Number two, I got to buy a whole bunch of stuff for the house. Number three is, gee, mum and dad, they did a lot more to keep the house running than I gave them credit for. Because what's this power bill? And what's this car? And the car would break and I had to pay for it. And I'm like, I'm only on whatever I was on it. I was at Westpac back then on like 21 grand or something. And so any bill wiped me out.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
But I got an advance on my credit card to buy my first house.
Okay.
At Taringa.
Don't do that, people.
So I'm probably not. But I needed all the money I could scrape up. And mum and dad helped me. So I had a bit of bank of mum and dad too. But even they were like, it's funny. Like, you know, it's like saying, oh, houses back in Brisbane, folks, they were like 11 grand or something. And mum and dad helped me with $300. But, you know, it's, and then, you know, it's that whole, do you live in the house by yourself? Or do I get roommates to help pay for the mortgage?
Yeah.
Like, that'd be awesome if I get people chipping in on the mortgage. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, I'm kind of an independent person now. Do I still need roomies?
Yeah.
You know, so that all it does is, like so many things in life, whether it's getting engaged or finding the right, it just unlocks a new level of.
Yeah, but it takes
you. I guess you'd frame it as taking you to the next mindset.
Correct, but it takes you from. It's a different mindset because there's two things that happens. You're no longer just a saver. You become a debt manager. Right. So that's a different mindset. And then all the things that you mentioned, like
your hot water system,
making decisions about what to buy.
Operations manager too. Debt manager, operations manager.
Yep. How to protect the asset, how to fund the asset, how to manage the debt so that it doesn't get out of control or behind. Whereas before it was just a matter of like putting more in the bank.
Yep.
You know, so there's a mindset shift. There's a bit of fear initially when you go from like, I'm now cash poor, but asset rich.
Yeah.
So that's another shift in mindset, right? There's a lot of people that are asset rich in retirement but cash poor.
Yeah.
Two different mindsets.
Yeah.
You've got flexibility when you're cash rich, when you're asset rich, not necessarily, depending on the assets, of course, but if we're talking about property, there's a certain level of responsibility and inflexibility that gets introduced.
Well, that gets our notion of liquidity.
Right.
You know, you might have a heap of assets, but you're not liquid.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. You know, same in the UK, same in Australia. People living in a $20 million house but can't afford a pizza.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. How do you generate an income? And even now, a friend of mine was saying their parents are struggling a little bit. They've got the house is paid off and they've got X amount, you know, invested, but it's not invested in high income producing investments.
Yeah.
Like private debt or private credit could be at one extreme of that if you wanted quite a high income stream, but with a bit of volatility.
Yeah.
But even with big numbers, like millions of dollars invested, $1 million now at 5% is 50 grand.
Yeah.
$2 million is giving you 100 grand. Now, unless that's in super, you're going to pay tax on that too.
Yeah.
So, you know, somebody out there will go, wow, I can retire and get 100 grand a year. Oh, that would be fantastic. But there'd be other people out there who go, I'd have to live on like 8 grand a month. I wouldn't know how to do that. So you have to be happy with, you know, having, what am I going to do in my retirement? How much is it going to cost? And have a chat with your family. You know, perhaps your spouse is working and wants to keep working. That's a massive positive. Or do you both want to stop working? And when you access your super, you can actually pay down debt. Is that a good idea to clear your mortgage with your partner's super?
This is a question I wanted to ask you because I think where do you reconcile these days the help that you give your kids with money? I mean, when you think back to when you grew up getting started in the world, how much help did you get?
Not much.
Right. And did you find it difficult?
Yes.
Right. And
my
did you
recollections
figure it out?
of the
Clearly.
well, we don't want to make this an Anthony Matthews, you know, deep,
No, the
dark
point-
cellar
I
of
think it's-
parental.
I think it's just I think it's something
I
that a
think
lot
it's
of people are
crucial-
struggling with right now.
Right. Because there's all the willingness in the world to help, but
Yeah.
it's the ability.
It's the
They're
ability.
two different things.
And to what point is it helpful to them and
Yeah.
necessary, really and truly, versus are we just trying to take away some of the discomfort and pain of getting started in life? There'll always be a safety net,
Yeah.
right? I don't think there's a parent in the world that would strip away the safety net and say, do you know what? You're on your own, buddy. You know, the way I think about it is there'll always be a warm bed. There'll always be a room
Of course,
in the
yeah.
home.
Yeah.
There'll always be money if the world gets dark and the road turns rocky. But other than that,
Yeah.
where do we draw the line at giving a head start versus just trying to make it easy for them?
This has been a discussion over Pinot with my friends over the years. And there's no right answer, but
No.
an answer is there's a view that back, I guess, when we were growing up in the 80s or whatever, everybody had, it's anecdotally, but everyone had a wolf at the door back then. And I know we like to go back and characterise the 80s. The 80s had great music, don't get me wrong, and the 80s had a lot of stuff going for it. You didn't have to wear a helmet when you rode a bike. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But there was a wolf at the door, and there was a wolf at the door at my family, and which was we've mitigated it by central banks not, I think, letting countries have recessions anymore. And I think this generation of Australia is famous around the world for having the longest run now without a recession. And what I think is happening is everybody now thinks that's normal. And remember when low interest rates were normal, and now people are like, oh my God, 5%, that's enormous. No, that's not enormous. So what I think's happened is back then when we had recessions, my father would get home every night worried he was going to be let go the next day, as did every dad in Brisbane back in the day in the 80s. There were in the 60s, 70s, there were always shocks on the news about credit crunches, they were called back in the day. Banks, you know, there was not a lot of credit cards and all of that. So if banks stopped lending, the economy stopped. And we've mitigated that now. Maybe you can argue for the better because look around, like society's a lot more complex and there's a lot more debt able to be invested in the markets now. But I think your parents helped you, but you bought not a great house in not a great suburb back in the day, and you did it up, and then it generated the flippers and so on. But what I think is happening now is we've kind of short-circuited it, and people buying their first house kind of want a good house in a good suburb with merely dishwashers. And I think, and I'm being obviously very simplistic, but it's being reinforced by social media at the moment. I think there's a lot of, apparently you got to spend $2 million, you know, on your wedding, and you've got to, if somebody doesn't spend $300 on you on your first date, probably not worth keeping. So we've just set our poor old our next generation up to be kind of quite anxious going, how am I going to buy $1 million house? And everybody on Instagram seems to be living the dream.
Yeah.
And I don't think they are living the dream. And particularly young men are being set, you know, examples that I think are very hard for them to meet. So yes, we want to help our kids, but I think what's missing is there's not as many. We've taken all the wolves away. So I think you want your kids to be motivated. You want to go to uni or whatever they want to do. I think most kids should go to trade school now. You make a lot more money and that'd be a lot more beneficial. But we've just told our kids we'll always be there for them. You'll always have exactly what you said. The safety and security things are all taken care of. But it's the money things. You've got to make your way in the world.
Yeah.
And my kids are worried about it. They're worried about getting a house and they're worried about getting a job.
Yes.
You know? AI's coming. How much money do I need to earn? Even my son's like, well, what if I earn $100,000 or $150,000? Like, that's
They're
Do you
all
know?
really valid. They're all
Yeah.
really valid concerns. I think they have social media. They have a lot more content to absorb. So therefore, it's thrust upon them to think about this a lot more as well. But I remember when I was in my early 20s, I was working for my mother's family business at the time. And I was doing that full time through uni. And then I reached a point where I wanted to it was in a completely unrelated field to my degree. I finished uni and thought, well, it's time to try and get a job in the industry, financial services, that I got my degree in. So I wanted to get into. And, all those questions that your kids have now about, well, I need to earn this to be able to afford that. I had all of that, like you probably did too. I went to moving out of home, becoming independent overnight financially, and going on to a very entry-level job of around $48,000 a year, including super.
Yep.
I remember doing the maths and working out that I didn't even have enough money left over at the end of the month to match or make a regular investment the same way a lot of the clients at the firm I was working for were being advised to start investing in.
Right.
I couldn't even afford to make the same kind of investment based on the income I was earning that the firm I worked with would recommend our clients start with investing. So that was jarring for me because you start to think, well, how am I ever going to be in a position where I'm going to have the ability to start my investment journey and my wealth building journey? I guess I think and talk about it in that way because that was my job.
Yep.
But as for any other young person in another, industry, maybe they are doing a budget or not, but at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of money left over. But a lot of people, young people now, I just did a presentation the other day for a very large Australian company, and we use an online survey tool for interactivity during the presentation. There were 90 new graduates on their second day of work. One of the questions I asked was, where does the majority of your money go right now and to what? And the options were food, fun and subscriptions, all the things that make up a budget, or savings and goals.
Yep.
Now, 70% of them said savings and goals.
Yep.
Now, that says to me that two things. One is that today young people are really focused on getting ahead because of the cost of living. Finance and getting ahead and budgeting, and that has been a real focus and highly popular content on social media over the last 5 years.
That's true.
People have consumed a lot of it. So it's created a hyper focus on that.
Varying quality.
Yeah. Which is good that people are paying attention to their money. But it also says to me that they're not yet living out of home.
Yep.
Because when you are with the cost of living, there's no way 80% of your income can go to goals if you're living in a major city. So I think there's always been difficult realizations. I also remember moving out into a tiny little flat, flatting with a girlfriend, and my mother sold our family home a couple of years later and moved interstate. I saw what the house went for and thought to myself, after having had that realization about what income I was on, how much I had left, I couldn't even start investing and I was on less than 50 grand a year. Doing the math, could I buy that family home in 5 years' time? No. Will I ever buy that family home? Probably not. So I had to have that tough conversation with myself as well and say, mate, the world's shifted. The cost of getting into property has changed structurally, fundamentally, in every single possible way. Even as good savers, over the last 10, 15 years, you couldn't have caught up with the rise in property prices in capital cities. So I guess I say all that to say that I eventually did, but I think I didn't know that I would, and I didn't know how I would, or what would unfold in terms of opportunity, work-wise, investment-wise, property-wise, to say from the beginning wholeheartedly that I would or wouldn't be able to buy a property.
Yeah.
And I just think that we need to kind of dial back the time frame that, or the way that, all these decisions are being put in front of young people, and say, well, sure, you're probably not going to be able to buy this home that you're living in 3 years' time when you want to become independent and live somewhere. It's probably going to be a smaller version of this, and there's probably going to be a few more bodies in the room, and
could be an apartment.
Probably will be an apartment. But there's a way, and whatever happens, some of those things are out of our control. But what we know to be true is that we need to get started.
Yeah.
We need to get a job, start somewhere, put the basics in place. And then if in doing all of the right things and applying all of the fundamentals, there's still a noticeable shortfall or a structural inability to get ahead and do what you need to, then I think as parents then we can step in and close the gap.
Yeah.
That's how I've kind of been trying to think about it. Even with my kids, they sort of, they've got their varying views, and kids are always naturally going to be how they are. Some are focused, some aren't, some don't care, some are hyper-focused. But at the end of the day, you just got to help them as much as you can, I guess.
Well, and things change, and things are going to keep changing.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking back, you talking about, getting out of uni and getting your first job. I'm thinking back now, I don't really think about it that much, but the difference even with my own kids, like my friends and I went through uni for free.
Yeah.
So I went through, it was $300 a year, which was student union fees and gym membership.
Yeah.
And I was outraged to pay $300 because that was a lot of money to me back then. And you look back going, and that had only come in a little bit before I went to uni, but you took it for granted, right? And I sure don't take it for granted with my kids. And so I think all of these little factors by themselves didn't change the mindset of kids, but in the aggregate they have, because my kids are now, if I go and do this course, I'm going to owe this much money when I get out.
Yeah.
So they're already, even though they don't have the debt yet, they know they're going to have a debt when they get out.
Yeah.
Like that's what a mind shift that is. Now, of course, mum and dad could possibly help out, and we're talking about all of that. But yeah, it's food and shelter for them. But then they're thinking ahead going, well, what's the job market going to be like if I choose this course, because I need a decent income. And then if I get a decent income, then where can I live? Where can I afford? Where I know and like, I can't afford a house there. So yeah, it is tricky, Rebecca. We've made it quite hard. Whereas I don't remember having that burden when I got my job. And in fact, the bank tried to lend us as much money as possible so that we wouldn't leave. And we were kind of tied because they'd make it so difficult to change your mortgage back then.
So let's talk about the segue into another one, which is, and this is something young people will eventually come into, so I guess we're sequentially moving through things, but the mindset shift that goes from managing money solo to managing money as a couple.
Yeah.
Over to you.
First thought is, well, as we've said before.
What is the mindset shift? That's the question to anchor to, Anthony.
Mindset shift is easy, and in retrospect gets even more obvious, which is the best investment you can make in life is picking the right partner.
Right.
So,
but we don't always have the.
We've all made some terrible investment decisions on that front.
Yeah.
But look, I think the practical one is, man, society is geared up for two people to contribute to a mutual objective. If you go into a bank solo and you go into a bank with your own business, the bank's going to be like, don't know, But if you go in solo and you work at a big company or something, or the public sector, okay. But if you go in as a couple, particularly if you're married, man, the leverage you can get then, because you've got two people, you're now a team, right? You can buy You can get more debt. You can buy a bigger house. You can both. If one loses their job, we're hedged. We've got another partner that can contribute.
Yeah.
Now, you may be in a situation where the other partner doesn't have to work but chooses to work. Great. So the first mindset shift is, well, you know, I like you, you like me. We're going to move in. Let's get a house where we want to live. Then the kids come along, as you say. So life gets a lot easier if you've got more people putting money into a pot, you know, into the tin.
So what you're saying is it's a pooling, to view it as a pooling of resources.
Yeah, because one person can just go, why don't we put all your money into super, or we'll put it into paying the debt down, and I'll keep the house running and pay the school fees. That's great. But as many of my friends have gone through, we probably don't have it on our action plan here, but that can also come asunder when divorce happens.
Right.
So then you've got the complete unraveling and wealth destruction that comes from that. So, boy, what a double-edged sword it is. But if we keep it positive, the mindset shift's amazing. But then it's the micro decisions that you make. There's never, well, I'm sure there's some couples out there. You may have this, but I'm sure there's some couples that have a financial team meeting and have a clear plan.
No.
But I think a lot of decision making when you've early days in a relationship is micro decision making. So it's like those little, gee, you spent a bit on. Couldn't we just get cheddar? You've gone and bought this $57 block of French cheese that got flown in, you know, on a private jet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure as a couple. Not sure as a couple we need that. Or it's we're not going out enough. We don't have date night. We're not spending enough as a couple to nourish this relationship. Because the last thing you want to do, the other mindset shift, I think, is you need to remember that the two most important people in a family are you and your hubby, or you and your partner. It's not the kids, right? We all get caught up in the kids. But you need to invest in the relationship and have a very strong agreement on where we're going, because the kids are transitory. I can't believe how quickly it's gone, because every day feels very long, but the years have been super short. And then the kids are out of the house, and then you're looking at each other going, well, who are you? We've got X in super, or we've paid the house off. But we've got to keep this show on the road. So that's the third mindset shift underneath all of this, is just keep investing. Remember to invest in each other and in the relationship. And these micro discussions you have about how we're going to spend our money needs to respect that nobody should have control over the other person, and the other person can't tell somebody what to do. You're two partners in a team, right? So very easy for me to say, very hard sometimes, you know, particularly we've all been through career changes, and it's you know, without wanting to sound too ominous, I think once you get a mortgage and you get a house and you get a partner, the other mindset shift is your options in life are now quite locked in for quite a long time, and you have to be comfortable with that.
Yes. So you've said, Paul, I think the big mindset shift is that you're no longer just one individual working towards X amount of goals. You're now two individuals working towards a combined set of goals. And there's the benefit or the advantage in that is that there's a pooling of resources.
Yeah.
I think that is absolutely true. And I think where some people listening might be then asking the next set of questions is, but I don't feel comfortable with that. And why people, in my experience, and this comes from my experience as a financial coach and as a financial advisor, having lots and lots of conversations about money management, and also as someone who has gone through the process as an individual, just once, because I've been in my relationship for a very long time. But the reason that feeling exists, when you really boil it down, is that there's two things. There's a fear that the other person won't manage it as well as you have.
Yep.
Because if you are not fearful of the pooling of resources, it's typically that you think you're going to get an advantage out of that,
Right,
right? Because
right.
you think the other person's better at managing money, so
Right.
this is a great thing.
Yep.
They're just going to like double it, triple it.
Yep.
Yay, it's all a win.
Yep.
But if you're someone that's fearful about that, there's an element of I don't know if this person's going to do the same job and handle it with the level of care and make the same kind of decisions that I might about this valuable resource I have built up over time.
Right.
And the other one is agency.
Yep.
A lot of people feel like, which is true to a degree, by combining your finances, you are losing agency over how they are managed.
Yes.
And that is true unless you have specific conversations about how to manage the money together as a couple, and what the new lay of the land will be essentially. So who's going to do what? What are the rules that we have? And when I say rules, I don't mean rules like you do this, I'll do that.
Yep.
It's just the things that you have either
ways of working or something.
Explicitly agreed or implicitly agreed.
Yeah.
We don't go and make really big decisions about cars, for example, without discussing it with each other. Or we don't go and buy
I have so many anecdotes
skis
about poor decisions males have made
without making the decision together. Or we don't go and spend, $1,000 on a Louis Vuitton handbag without having a conversation about it together.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I'm saying. Those conversations need to have evolved and you've subconsciously reached a level of mutual understanding about what is and isn't acceptable, or you've had a conscious conversation about it and arrived at a set of operating principles that works, and you may need to revisit them from time to time.
Yeah.
But once that's been done, and there's a whole lot of maturation in the relationship and your money management skills together that happens in having that conversation too. Once that's happened, the fear piece moves away as well. And you know what you're doing. The other person knows what they're doing. There's no confusion or concern about how this will be handled. And suddenly it moves forward with ease.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say it stays like that, but there'll be the revisiting and the rejigging and the renegotiation of things over time. But that's one of the mindset shifts, is to just recognize what is the friction.
Yep.
It's typically those two things.
Yep.
And then once you've resolved them in that way, you can move forward. And the other one is to also zoom out. This is another thing that I've learned through experience in my career, is not just looking at the merging of finances as the pooling of money. It kind of goes beyond that, really. I mean, I've said before, if you think about it like a journey, going on a bushwalk, you're going camping together, if you both turned up with exactly the same thing and exactly the same amount of then there's a bit of stuff missing probably, right?
Yep.
If you both turn up with a tent and it's the same size, and that's a bloody waste of time.
You got two tents and
right?
no cookware.
Now, I know if somebody turns up with water for the entire trip and the other person brings fire starters and cooking equipment, then arguably there's not one is not worth more than the other.
Right.
They're both very valuable in the journey that you're about to go on.
Yeah.
Now, if someone wants to pull apart my analogy and say, well, if you both turn up with 20 grand, that's pretty good still. But someone might turn up with more money and cash. Someone else may be bringing something else to the table in terms of assets. It might be cash, and it might be someone's studying in a career that's going to provide, a very long, stable source of income for you and your family over time. So the beginning might not be equal, but it's the journey that you're going on and what will come of that people need to think about when you are starting to combine things as well. Now, I'm also conscious that I'm talking about people who are maybe younger and coming with certain circumstances. When you're talking about people merging in their second or third relationships and there's blended and families, there's a whole lot of other factors to consider. But that message was really just for people who are younger and starting out
Yeah.
and wanting to how do I do this thing,
Yeah.
like combine money? How do where do we start? So
I tried to do it the most simple way possible, and I've been through both. So I've had, one relationship and then, had to start another one. Fortunately, that one was when I was young, and it must be a big challenge when you've got kids and lots of assets. But I liked your word earlier about agency. So how we did it, we just set up a kind of like a central account. But we agreed to have separate accounts. So my wife has her pay and a card on an account that she's had since she was at school, and I've had one since I was at school. Even though Westpac tells me it's an ancient dinosaur account, they don't like it. But I can remember the account number and BSB, so I don't want to change it. And then we set up a joint one. So guess what? All of the bills and all of the subscriptions or whatever come out of that one.
Yeah.
She can buy things that I don't know about.
Yeah.
Right? And so can I. But I think it's agency. Everybody, you're a couple, but you're also two people.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, and it's horses for courses. What works for us? Other people will be like, oh my God, you've got separate accounts? That's weird. Well, it's not weird. Well, it is weird to them, not weird to us. So, so I think that's one. The second one is to keep it simple. So all I did is the two huge things we need to sort are where we're going to live and what debt is on that, and then putting as much money as possible into a super fund back in Australia. And then we were overseas for a long time, so I contributed to pension pots over there. So we were often broke during the year because I went a little bit too aggressive on just piling.
Pinot.
But what it was, I guess, and I haven't really thought of it in a rigorous way, but it was I just wanted my life to be set and forget.
Yeah. Set
and forget is the mortgage and where you live. So let's just keep the money going into that and put surplus amounts in it just to keep nibbling away, because as we've said multiple times on this, time's your friend.
Yeah.
And it mightn't sound like much to put an extra $200 in your mortgage every month, but it makes a massive, massive difference over time. And the second thing is let's just contribute as much as we can into our super funds.
Yeah.
I just took, and you'll tell me as a financial advisor, this is terrible, terrible advice for people, but I just figured, do you know what, that between those two, that's probably 75% of my wife and I's income. Who cares about the rest?
Yeah.
Because we got pension, we got retirement sorted, and we're just going to try and pay this debt down as fast as possible.
Yeah.
All the rest, how much we spend on caramello koalas or nappies or baby food, and oh my God, the costs that came with kids. But that was covered in the little pot here, and we just chipped in and we made sure there was enough money in there. And sometimes the cards didn't work at the shop.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's because we're doing these two things.
Yeah.
And they're very, very important things to get right.
Yeah.
I would hate to be worrying about that's 75 or that
the gap, the balance.
Not having the 75% of your income sorted.
Covered, yeah.
And worrying about, we spent a lot on Pinot this week.
Yeah.
We bought, let's not go on that holiday to save a little bit of money. Trying to kind of get, the pennies sorted when the pounds haven't been sorted is not a great strategy.
Yeah.
So that's the other mindset shift I would say to people is make sure the huge things are sorted in your life, and then the little things are kind of a bit easier to address then.
And perfect segue into the last mindset shift that I want to chat about with you today, and that is, you mentioned kids. That's the move from double income, no kids to kids. And I think a lot of people in the double income, no kids stage of life worry about how they will navigate having kids, because they start to think about, well, who's going to stop working? How are we going to manage our finances? Presumably a lot of people, when they're in that scenario, if they haven't gone in this all-in journey of managing money together, they're still very much earning their own income, paying their own expenses, and maybe contributing a little bit to something that's shared.
Yeah.
But that stops working. That system breaks to a degree once someone stops working, presumably the person birthing the child, and is no longer earning an income for a period of time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had an experience in my professional life where I had a woman come to me and she was really worried about what was going to happen when she went on maternity leave because she had a really good job and she was obviously in a relationship, and she was months away from having the baby, but wanted to sort of just look through her expenses and sense check how she would manage her finances once the baby arrived. And the reason she was worried was because her income was going to stop. She had a certain amount of a paid leave, parental leave from her employer, but not a lot. And then a little bit of the government, which was at the time a lot less than what they do now, offer now in terms of how long that continues. And she was worried about how she would pay the bills. And I sort of said to her, well, you know, presumably your partner's still working during that time. And, oh, yes, but he won't be contributing to my expenses or my bills. So I'm going to have difficulty making ends meet.
At least they've got a clear plan, Rebecca.
So I was just, I really didn't, I was a bit young at that stage. I really didn't quite know how to, it was the first time I'd come across a situation where someone was dealing with that situation.
It's not uncommon.
And I've learnt that it's not uncommon in my life for people to have weird and wonderful ways of managing their finances as a couple, but it does leave people in a bit of a predicament when they have to stop work and still have these expenses ongoing and just practically can't fund them if you're having a baby.
It doesn't seem optimal.
But what is the mindset shift outside of that scenario is that, and I'll just speak to it from my own experience, you go from young work, building your career, to suddenly being out of it. And everybody else, I mean, I was young when I had my children, so I was still building my career, and all of my peers and friends were continuing to build their career during the first couple of years of my kids being toddlers, babies and toddlers.
Yep.
So you sort of, it's jarring. You sort of step out and where your identity is linked to being productive, being on track, being career orientated. And again, this whole concept of like building my wealth and getting on track financially to I'm now rolling around on the floor with my baby being like, roll over, which is amazing. And it's a privilege that you get to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you do have to sit with who am I for a minute? Like, what am I doing now? And is that the track I need to get back onto, or am I building a new track where I mix work and motherhood?
Yep.
And then there's the man's perspective as well. So, yeah, I think it's something for people to sort of think about. A lot of the women I was in a mother's group with at the time, they were older than me, sort of in their late 30s and 40s, early 40s having children. So I was the youngest by far. And we would talk about this often because they were further along in their career.
Yeah.
And it was a different kind of
What were they characterising it as?
Well, they would sort of say, you know, they were more senior in their roles.
Right.
They were managing teams.
Yeah.
And, you know, to them, it was more like this was not a course correction in terms of how they would, you know, earn an income and grow wealth. This was just a period. I think the loss of income for them was a lot more significant because the contribution of someone in their late 40s and the income earning capacity that they have to their household was, you know, they noticed the drop in income more than, say, I did in early career. And I think that the conversation after that identity shift was more like, well, how do we make ends meet?
Yeah.
And also, I'm not earning money anymore. I actually feel like I don't have as much say in how we spend the money while I'm not earning the money.
Agency again.
So coming back to this agency piece, and a lot of the coaching work that I was doing at the time was more helping people sort of step back from the mindset that you only have a say in the plan if you are an equal contributor to the plan from a financial perspective, to there are multiple jobs to be done in terms of managing the finances in a household or in a relationship or in this unit, whatever you want to call it, of two people and a baby or more kids than one. And it's not just income earning is one, but the management of that income is equally as important.
Absolutely.
And all of the other administrative and, research-based that needs to go on into different things, decisions that need to be made, all of that stuff is equally as important. So if we can kind of zoom out of this, again, lens where everybody is their worth and their contribution is only equal to the amount that they're contributing, back into, there's a bigger picture here, and it's we want to take things from here to here, or we want to make sure that they stay at least level.
Yes.
There's a lot of responsibility in that, and that can sit with you for the period that you're not earning, and it's an equally as important job.
Right.
And for it, you still have agency in this situation.
This gets to the notion of what's measurable and what's not, and which in banking they call financial and non-financial, right?
Yeah.
And remember back in the day when there were the high-profile, splits with celebrities or CEOs in America when I was living over there was always these high-profile divorces. And a very famous head of a giant company in America got in massive trouble because when he ran off with his biographer, he made the offhanded comment, which still, it jars me now, but it was the stereotype back then. He goes, I was the one that built the career. I was the one that paid all the bills. I was the one that did all of this. She just stayed home and brought the kids up and ran the house, or houses in their particular case. And, before I had kids, I'm like, well, I don't know. I suppose that makes sense, right? Like, alpha male out there, alpha mailing it, and the woman's just at home having Chardonnay with all her friends.
Yeah.
And like, I married a good guy, didn't I? Or vice versa. There's men sitting at home, wife's CEO of something. No. And then, God, the times, when my wife was off working, I had to travel back for family reasons, and she'd be like, you're going to have to take a couple of days off and look after the kids. My God, it's the hardest job in the world. So this gets to financial and non-financial. The non-financial contribution of someone doing that is enormous and equally valuable to whatever money comes in the account because you're enabling the other person.
Yeah. And this, this is something that comes out in, we talk about life insurance and we do like a bit of a reconciliation on, what lump sum someone should be insured for in the event something happens to them, and the other partner is left to look after everybody.
Yeah.
And it's not until you think about, and this, as you said, it can go either way, but whoever's the primary caregiver, if that's the person whose life we're talking about insuring and therefore the one that something happens to, and what is the cost of replacing the work that that person does? If they have a job, it's equal to whatever their salary is, right? But if they are a homemaker, if they are a primary carer, if they are the person that is raising children full time, when you do the math on replacing the breadth of what they spend time on and the job that they do, it covers 5 or 6 different roles. Like if you had to pay another person to come in and do that job.
But this modern families are facing this because I think it's amazing, and in America now, the overall employment statistics fascinating. More than half the workforce is female now. And in most professional categories, females are over 50%. Like this is one of the biggest changes that we've seen. I'm not sure about the stats in Australia, but what it's telling you is there's got to be huge infrastructure to enable both people to be working. And that infrastructure, I know in Australia, is incredibly expensive. I didn't bring my kids up here. We came back when they were like just before they were teenagers. But childcare and the logistics of leaving work. Oh, I can't leave work. Could you go pick the kids up?
Yeah.
Or all of that. Like it's not a mindset shift. It's an entire operating system shift in your family.
Yeah.
It's not just you and your hubby. Oh, what are we going to do this week? All those endless weekends we had when you know, you were dating or first married. Oh, let's go and do a gallery opening, or let's go off to this fair. We go to a concert. Oh, good.
Yeah.
And then the kids are there, and then, boy, you have to be nice to your boss too, because you can't lose your job anymore. You can't be that lippy person up the back of the room anymore going, I don't think that's going to work. You're like, oh, no, that's a fantastic idea and that's going to be great and I'm right on board.
Yeah.
That's risk management for your family now. Because it's not just you anymore, it's you and your partner.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, it's you, your partner, and these two people.
Yeah. And so the mindset
it's the responsibility is enormous. I still feel it.
Yeah.
I get home and I'm like, are you kids okay? Like,
Yeah. So the mindset shift behind that responsibility that comes with family and kids is money is choice when you are young or when you are without kids. Money is going to, aside from paying your own expenses, to fun, predominantly travel experiences, good times, and then possibly wealth building.
Yep.
But when we become a family or have children, money becomes obligation first. We have to make sure home base is paid for, secured, fed, bills are paid, risk is mitigated. And
while also living, you got to have some money in there to live too.
That's right. So the choice piece and the wealth building piece, they're still there, but they tend to sort of fall away a little bit unless you consciously start to build them back in. So you need to still give yourself the agency and be like, no, we need to be conscious about fun, maybe as a couple and as a family, and we need to be conscious about that little bit extra to be contributing wherever possible to building some cash reserves, some liquidity outside of just the mortgage obligation, if that is there and that exists. So it's a whole shift. But I think, again, and one of the threads I've noticed in us talking about all of this is there's a lot of it is attached to our identity.
Yeah.
We started talking about, the transition to retirement. Identity was a really big piece of that.
We've come a long way, haven't we?
We started talking about going from, a first home buyer, parting with a massive amount of money in cash and putting it into an asset. You can't see the money. It's invisible now.
I'm getting anxious just with you reliving it. I'm gonna have to go see a financial coach myself now and have a chat about it.
You've got the whole I can't see the money anymore. Where is it? It's in these four walls somewhere, but what is this worth tomorrow?
Yeah.
So there's the mindset shift around that. A lot of that's identity based. We go from a saver to a debt manager and a wealth builder because we've got an asset now.
And then a spender before that. Yeah.
And then we've gone talking about combining finances. That has a lot of identity in it as well. Who am I? Who is this person?
Yep.
What are we reconciling here? And all the way to, it used to be me working to get ahead, and now we have a family and who am I now that I'm not working? Again, identity. So I think it's hopefully what we've chatted through in how to shift through those different mindsets is helpful to people who might be navigating any of that right now.
None of it's easy, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's not boring.
It's not boring.
At least we can say it's not boring.
It's a wild ride, but it's such a worthwhile ride.
Yeah. Great chat.
Leave it there.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode as much as we did making it, definitely follow along. And I'd love to see some questions. As you can tell, there's no shortage of us giving very long-winded answers to whatever intrigue and drama that you have going on in your life. So drop it in the chat, we'll engage, and we'll make everybody happier and wealthier.
My Money Circle is a corporate authorised representative of Novus Capital Limited. The information provided on this podcast is general in nature and does not constitute financial product advice. For personal financial product advice, please consult a licensed financial advisor.